Hi everyone, and welcome to Millennium Computers online tutorial series. Today's course is going to answer the question, how do I import an Excel spreadsheet into a FAST data entry page? Now, of course, a necessary prereq for this course is that you're running a version of FAST high enough to accommodate the new data entry format. And now most of the pages by now are going to be modified to the new data entry format. Let me show you how to know if that's what you're looking at once we execute the report. Now, the other side of this piece is that you can now create custom data entry grids. And once you've created a custom data entry form, you can also import an Excel spreadsheet to populate that data. This is a huge time saver if you have a large amount of data you need to enter into a spreadsheet and you don't necessarily feel like keying it in all over again. Now, the new data entry forms in terms of the data entry page builder are going to be covered in a separate tutorial. What we're going to do now is show you how to use the new Excel import functionality once you have a data entry grid to work with. So just to keep in mind, this functionality is going to be applied to any data entry form that is baseline within FAST and also to any custom data entry forms that your institution might have created. I'm working right now in the budget and forecasting application, but of course this is a tool that can be applied to any data entry form within FAST. I've selected a basic report, and like I mentioned earlier, this can be a report that is either baseline to your application or that is custom based on a need that you have to create a data entry page to capture data that may not be available in your ERP. Let's just go ahead and execute this first report. You're going to notice, first of all, this is going to execute as a blank report. If I scroll to the bottom of the page, you're going to notice this notation that says this is a data entry page, click on a cell to start editing. Now there's another step we need to accomplish first, and that is to start the data entry process. The editing step would come into play if there were already fields or cells associated with this spreadsheet. Now we've covered data entry forms in other tutorials, so I'm not going to get too involved in how to populate them. But of course, when we begin to populate a data entry sheet, the first step would either be to click the plus new button, which is of course going to open a blank row. And this would allow me to literally just key in data cell by cell. And it works very much like a typical Excel spreadsheet. However, it does require that you key that data into each field. Let me just undo that for now. What I want to point out in this tutorial is the new functionality that is available on the bottom of the page. Now, there is an Excel icon, and you're pretty used to seeing Excel icons at the bottom of the page because what you're typically going to do is dump whatever the report data is into an Excel spreadsheet if you'd like to work with it a little bit as a document or perhaps email it to someone else. The new tool is the Excel arrow. If I select my Excel options, notice I have the opportunity to export data to Excel, and that's just what you're used to seeing on any baseline report. We also have the opportunity to upload Excel, and we have the opportunity to download the Excel template. Now this would be step number one because this is going to give you the blank but pre-formatted template for this report. It's really important when you download the Excel template that you do not modify or delete any of your column headers. It's also really important that you do not leave any blank rows on your spreadsheet, especially between the header row and the rest of your data. If I open the Excel template, this is a file that I can now save to my computer. When it opens, it's going to be read-only, but what you need to do is enable editing and save that as an Excel file to your computer or network drive. And just notice the text fields that are entered as column headers. You want to leave those as they are in the spreadsheet for the import to be successful. So what we want to do now is show you how you can import an Excel document that's already been populated into this report. I'm going to choose Upload Excel, and then I'm going to get a dialog box just prompting me to find that file on my computer. Once you've found the template that is populated, just click Upload. Now, before I save these changes, I want to point out a couple key things here. First of all, every one of these cells that has been imported is now showing as a highlighted yellow cell. That just simply means I have unsaved updates or modifications or deletes. So before I navigate off this page, I need to make sure that I do something with it to save my changes. The next thing is, before the spreadsheet can be successfully uploaded and saved, the data is going to have to be validated, which means FAST is actually not going to let me save data that is not valid. Notice on my first column, I have a field called position code. These are the actual position numbers that correspond to my position data in my ERP. Before I click Save, FAST is going to validate that these are in fact legitimate position codes, and it's actually going to do one more thing. Let me click Save and show you what it's going to do. Notice now I have validated position codes, and it's actually already populated my title based on those position codes in my ERP. That's pretty cool. So I didn't even have to enter that data in my spreadsheet or key it in anywhere. This is going to pre-populate for me based on the validation step that's going to happen before I'm allowed to save. You'll also notice these final 4 columns: created by, created on, updated by, and updated on. These fields, of course, were not in my Excel template because they're not fields that are populated. These are fields that the system is going to auto-populate based on the date the document was initially created and the dates subsequent to that there might be updates to this page. Once the data is populated and I've saved my results, now I can just treat this like any other data entry page. I can click plus new to add new records that I can simply key in from this point forward. And I can also treat this like a regular reporting page. If I have read-only access to this page, I can run this as a typical report and then save it as a pinned report, use it as a dynamic selection, or just export it to PDF or Excel. So remember, to ensure success in importing Excel documents to your data entry pages, make sure you download the template, keep the titles of the template intact, and don't add any extra spaces. And remember that FAST will always perform a validation step on your data before you're able to save your changes. I hope this has been a helpful overview of the new Excel import functionality on the FAST data entry pages. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.